So let's open it up to questions. How did it go over the last 8 days with practice? Any issues? What's going on? Any interesting insights, etc. Everything's fair game.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all.
Hey.
I really enjoyed this practice. I guess I've been doing variations on the theme for a while now. Two names for the kind of practice that I was kind of doing are paragon practice or exemplar practice. The paragon practice that I've read about, and there's a good write-up on it on a blog by someone named Jana Jenny, which I love that name. But paragon practice is this idea that we're like missing certain qualities through our early childhood development, kind of like attachment theory, and you can kind of figure out what those qualities are, and there are a lot of different qualities, and then you can imagine a paragon or someone that exemplifies those qualities and learn to imbue yourself with them through just like we were doing visualization, mantra, or imagining that that person or that God or that whatever you want to call it, that platonic ideal of that quality. And in this practice, you first imagine that person and imagine them dealing with others, and then you imagine them kind of like transferring into this essence white light, and then you imagine that light coming in through your crown chakra and going down and through your body. So that's a really interesting one. And then there's also, I've heard of exemplar practice, which is like similar idea where you're imagining some other person or historical figure or platonic ideal of a thing that you want to exemplify personally. Interestingly, as I was doing this practice and saying the devotional mantras and imagining different people, I consider myself, I don't know, agnostic, but very Buddhist bent, and I've gotten so much out of Buddhism, and I love Buddhism. But funnily enough, like as I was doing this, and I was raised totally atheist, I didn't have any religion, but there was a lot of like Jesus stuff coming up in my in my visualizations and in my experience, which was cool. I didn't really resist it at all, and I just kind of went with it. So I did a lot of, you know, Jesus visualizations and also Buddha visualizations, and mantras. And I really liked the paying homage to all awakened beings was the mantra I was using. So that was really nice. I really found that it really was really great at shifting my view of my experience. So like when I would have tough feelings or emotional content coming up, or I would get lost in, you know, discursive thought or anxious thinking, it was just such a powerful way to shift out of it and to relate with that content skillfully. So I really like that a lot. I also had a really interesting kind of melding of PT, flowy, vibratory, pleasant sensation, and the visualization of light. And I was kind of thinking of it as like the halo that you see in all the Christian iconography, and imagining that coming out of me. And it really gave me this very kind of like light, light in every sense of the term feeling in my whole body as I was doing that, and kind of imagining the exemplars and then imagining myself that way and expressing the wish to want to be more like that, was just very powerful and enjoyable and nice. And I was like excited to get away from the tongue led breathing and all the negative energy stuff. So it was like especially nice to be in the imagining all of these nice and perfected qualities. So I really enjoyed the practice, and I think I'm going to keep it in my regular practice. It feels like a really good way to start a practice and to kind of prime my intention and my feelings for things. And then I really love the wrapping up the practice with the may this work through me in such a way that benefits all beings that you've been saying, Cedric. So yeah, really excellent practice, and I've been loving it. And yeah, thanks for being the impetus to work
Sure,
with it
man. What
more.
a fantastic report. Two things. Yeah, and I really like that verbiage as well. Like, I've made this work for me to benefit others, because it just seems like, I don't know, just very plain spoken but sincere. That's anyway. Two things I want to point out. One is, it's kind of, I also found it interesting how you were talking about like this symbology, right? And then like kind of having insights into like symbols and like, the light and so I'm in psychotherapy right now, and I've got an Argentine psychotherapist, and she's always like talking about symbolism and stuff, and like I kind of get it and I kind of don't, but like, um, whatever. But like, it's interesting to like, yeah, like open up to like the symbolism, and like there's like insights that can be had like at a symbolic level that you can't have like at some other level. So it's just kind of an interesting comment. And then something else he said is like, you kind of have like a greater perspective on like discursive mind or like your other kind of more like typical mental habits. And again, I think I've probably been hammering this pretty hard, but I'll hammer it again. Again, the Dharma works through contrast, right? You get up into these states and then you're like, oh, holy shit, huh, wow, how about that? And it's like all of a sudden, like you're like, why can't my wife fucking do the dishes right? Really stands out. I was like, what the fuck is that even thought about? Instead of like just like you're totally identified with it. It's like, oh yeah, what the fuck is my fuck these people, blah blah blah. And you think it's normal. But then you just spent 20 minutes like, in like this like blissful devotion to like the Buddha, to Jesus, whatever. And you're like, oh wow, like oh, and you see it. So and whatever. I think it's obvious. But yeah, I just wanted to point that
Yeah, a friend of mine from my meditation group reported that when he does this, he visualizes Michael Jordan. Like that's who exemplifies like the
out.
really being on top of whatever he's trying to do and 100% focused and 100% committed. And I was like,
Wow.
that's not where I go, but that's interesting.
Yeah, whatever works, I guess. Okay, cool. All right. Any other reports? Any other comments? How are things? How are things going?
I have a question that's
Sure.
like substantially less rosy and optimistic
Uh-huh.
as Nicholas's, so I feel bad asking for it. But it's just like a lot of my practice currently is sort of effortless, right? I just like don't do anything. And that's nice. And this is requiring me to do something. And it's also I felt Tonglen was more engaging and like dynamic, whereas this seems like a little more static, like there's less sort of stimulation. So I guess my question is either how do I add stimulation, or how do I sort of like nudge the scale in favor of my heart rather than my head, such that, you know, I just sort of like naturally want to do this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. It's a great question, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up now. And also, you emailed me about this. I didn't get around to responding, but yeah, this is good.
I completely forgot if I emailed you. So
Yeah, you did.
okay.
Yeah, we both apparently forgot. Anyway, yeah. So, okay, there's a lot there. So let me just first make sure that I'm getting it right. So, seems like you kind of the center of gravity of your practice is more like the kind of vipassana, kind of open awareness, kind of more wisdom practices.
I suppose.
Yeah, you, and then also, you did find that Tonglen pretty engaging. This is not terribly engaging, and you're maybe interested like, okay, how do I make this more engaging? How do I also, you're let's say a little habituated to it being easy, right? Like when you do a practice a lot, it's easy, and then this is a new practice, so it's like, oh, this is hard. Um, and then maybe how do you correct that? How do you improve it? And I think there's a little bit I'm not getting. Could you clarify?
Yeah, I mean that sounds right. I mean, you just kind of added in this like maybe it's just a learning curve.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like here's a source of difficulty. Yeah, is it just a learning curve? I just wait it out. Can I add stimulation?
Mhm.
Or is it just like, yeah, maybe the learning curve is just like your heart will like get bigger, and as your heart gets bigger, this is just more enjoyable.
Okay, so and these are just opinions of mine, so take all this with a grain of salt. I basically, so I got an undergraduate in psychology, and one of the things that really stuck with me that from that undergraduate was the following little anecdote. So they had people listen to these little beeps, these little tones, right? And then they would ask people. This is like psychological experiment, and they'd ask people which ones. I'm sorry, they'd run the people through it twice, so they get to hear this like series of tones. They were trying to figure out what people liked and what they remembered having heard before. So they were asked in these again, they were run through it twice, and then they were asked thereafter which ones, and the second trial, like which ones do you remember? And they were super crap at doing that. People had like no accuracy with remembering which ones. But then this is really, really interesting. They liked the ones that they had heard before. And this has a huge implication in my mind. So you like what you know. You like what you know. Like, probably all of our favorite meals are something that we had as a child, right? And it's also, and it makes sense, right? From this perspective of survival, like if we've experienced it, it kind of basically worked out. Okay, that didn't kill us, it sustained us, it got us this far. So we like it. And so it also kind of points to this actually like somewhat of an inertia of our character and the way we are, but also like a stability. So it's like not good or bad. But then this is the big insight is that if you just do a bunch of repetitions of things that you know are good for you, you're going to like it. And so the more that you do the heart practices, the more that you like it. And now let's look back to when you started with, the more kind of insight practices, the just sitting, the open awareness, the Vipassana. I'm sure it was a living hell. It certainly was for me. It was not even remotely pleasant. Right? So same thing applies here. So yeah, just basically a really kind of dumb like answer here. Do it more, you'll like it more. That's one. Two is I do think, and I've been saying this, and I'm going to even perseverate a little bit more about it today. I do think that it's really important to kind of balance out the heart qualities and the wisdom qualities, and then kind of really actually the heart quality should be the foundation, and the wisdom on top of that, and everything. My somewhat informed opinion is the best way to go about it. Yeah. Did that speak to it, and is there more around that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it sounds like the short answer is just like, yeah, be patient, and
Yeah.
the enjoyment will come.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like, and this is also another thing I just repeat and repeat and repeat. Like, if you can answer the following question, everything will go well in your practice. How can I enjoy the practice more? How can I enjoy the practice more? And do whatever the hell it takes to enjoy the practice. And then okay, you want to work on this practice, like set it up and manipulate the situation and whatever to where you enjoy it more.
Cool.
That absolutely transformed my practice a couple years ago. I went to my teacher and I was like, I just want to feel better. And he was like, well, do all these things that feel good. And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. I resisted it for years. I did only basically drive Vipassana for years. And I'd be like, oh, this is so boring.
Self-flagellation.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is so boring. Oh, I was like, oh, it sucks so bad. Oh. And then like I talked to my teacher and then but then there was this weird resistance around actually enjoying it. And like and I think we probably all have some access to this. You can like kind of lean into it in a way that you like enjoy it more. It's like kind of like all like, ooh, this is fun. I'm like, no, I'm just not into that. And I wouldn't do it.
Thank you.
I'm like the aversive temperament where I want to look at problems and solve them instead of enjoying what's naturally present and already good. So like my attention always just moves towards and sticks to the things that are wrong with my experience, and that made me miserable. And then like training myself to with the Shinzen nurture positive practice to just notice positive aspects of experience and like bathe in them, enjoy them, take them in, allow them to be, totally shifted my daily experience of everything.
Yeah, totally. Okay. What else is coming up for people? How did it go this past week? What is up? Any questions?
I just wanted to say, anytime I'm meditating, I constantly am noticing that I'm having these mental distractions.
Uh-huh.
And I'm reminding myself, okay, just gently come back and
Mhm.
just focus. It's okay, breathe. But then I'm always wind up becoming distracted. So, we just talked about, enjoying the
Yeah.
practice, but
Mhm.
how can I enjoy my practice when I'm constantly always self-distracting all the time? How do I ease out of that?
Sure. Okay, so how can so there's all this distraction. It's not pleasant. It also, I hear what you're saying. Like what
I
I'm
mean,
hearing
not
is,
even not always unpleasant, just a distraction. I'm like, hey, I'm not worried about that right now. We're meditating.
yeah, sure. And that, also there's this like maybe sense of lack of momentum, right? It's like, like
Right.
start, stop, like that kind of thing, right? Okay. So let me see if I can speak to that. This is a very basic recommendation, but like you want to, every time you catch the mind, celebrate that you've caught it and bring it back. Like if you could really lean extremely heavily into like set the intention. Or actually, you know what? Let's do a quick meditation where we visualize it. Okay, let's everybody straighten up. This is good for everybody, me included. Straighten up, pushing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. And then now you're going to see yourself meditating. And then you're going to get distracted all the time. And then you see yourself getting distracted, and then maybe you even get lost in the thought. And then, boom, you wake up, you catch that you're distracted. And then you sweetly bring it back. And then now also literally feel joy in your body right now. Like smile at the fact that you've caught your mind. So, like, we're physically smiling with the face and we're feeling the smile in the body. And you're absolutely tickled pink that you just caught yourself. And to be clear, the catching is an act of mindfulness. That is exactly the thing that you want to reinforce. It's like, oh, this is so fantastic. Oh, I just caught myself mind wandering. And by catching it, I know without there's not even the slightest doubt I am being mindful right now. This is absolutely fantastic. Okay, great. Okay, so good. Now drop that. All right, so that's what you should do. What else? So another thing to remember, and this is kind of like I don't know if this is a subtle point or not, but it is not a bad thing to have thoughts arise in the meditation itself, because in the meditative state, you kind of, how to put this, everything's like a little bit more transparent and light, and experiencing thought in that altered state, in that, in a sense, wiser state of being able to see the translucent kind of nature of thought itself has the potential of bringing huge insight. Like that you see thought in the meditative context, it will be lighter and more transparent, and you are, and that is possibly one of the greatest insights on the meditative path, is knowing that thought is nothing. It is just an arising. It is no more substantial than this. Like, where'd that go? Where is it? I snapped. Where is it? What is it? It's nothing. Right now, it's a thought. It's absolutely nothing. It's completely empty. And so, in that meditative state, you're more likely to see that, which is a humongous insight. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm trying to reframe your experience of something that's fundamentally negative and irritating, which is like, oh shit, I'm distracted, which it does suck. It's not fun. But I'm trying to open up to how there is something valuable about it. So it's not a completely worthless experience. Okay, then next piece of advice is this is just a learning curve. And sadly, as I was just saying earlier, and then as Stephen was confirming, generally speaking, things suck quite bad at the beginning of practice. And what people often do is like, oh shit, oh, this sucks, I can't concentrate. No. It just means like, okay, it's a confirmation that you do need to practice because you struggle with it. So those were three kind of, let's say, ways of looking at it. Is there anything else around this? Am I speaking to your question? Fantastic, great. I hope that was helpful. All right, anything else coming up for people? And just let me say, Tabitha, this is super, super common. You are not doing it wrong. That is a super common report. Nothing wrong with that.
Also, like thinking is just the nature of the mind, like seeing is the nature of the eyes, and hearing is the nature of the ears, and it's just going to be happening. Things that are helpful for me are like imagining a time where all of the distractions and things that keep coming up are resolved, or like imagining they're resolved, or making a commitment to myself to deal with them after the meditation is over so they don't keep coming up.
Oh, yeah, I like that. It's like, so doing like a little visualization where it's like, oh, okay, all this stuff got resolved. I feel so great about it. And so like that kind of like relieves you of the burden of having to think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just to chime in, I notice particularly like during periods of a lot of stress, that I have a much harder time putting that stuff down, and it's more prevalent. And what I do is I just try to roll with it and just be present with that feeling, even if it's a feeling of frustration that I'm being distracted. I just try to sit with that feeling.
Yep. Yeah, you quantize it. Sure. Yep. Just be with it.